The Girl Who Built a Spider, Chapter 6. No Time for Tomfoolery. Thomas Edison shook everyone's hand, and for such a small boy, he had a very strong grip. Did you win a science fair too? Ashley asked him. You didn't win, Ashley's mother corrected her. You came in second. Maybe this little boy won first place in another county. Ashley looked away. Teresa turned to say something nice to her to soften her mother's blow. She also wanted to pretend like Thomas Edison wasn't there. But he stuck out his hand, and there was nothing Teresa could do but be polite, take his hand and shake it. The boy pulled her hand toward him quickly, forcing her down to his eye level. Please help me get inside, Teresa, he whispered urgently. But she didn't answer and tried desperately to pull away. If her father thought something weird was going on, he might panic. But her in the car and in her internship with Dr. Flax right then and there. Nice to meet you, was all she said to Thomas. She pulled and pulled, but he shook her hand again and again until her arm felt like rubber. Okay, that's enough now, her father said, prying her hand away from this strange boy in winter clothes. Then finally, the front door of the laboratory slid open and a woman moved very quickly in their direction. Whoever she was, she had to be riding on a hoverboard, Teresa thought, because she glided toward them so incredibly fast she could not possibly be moving on human feet. She circled around the group before coming to an abrupt halt. She was all business. She wore a long white laboratory coat over a dark blue blouse buttoned up to her neck with an even darker skirt that went all the way to the ground, so you couldn't even see if she was wearing shoes. Her hair seemed to be a metallic silver, if that were possible, tied sharply in the back. In her ear was the tiniest white wireless earpiece. Teresa thought she must be pretty important. She tapped rapidly on a clipboard with a pen and scrutinized each of the three children. Social conversation requires me to introduce myself. My name is Miss Marie Curie. I am the director of laboratory operations here at Flax Industries. Mr. Dean perked up, at once impressed. Ah, perhaps you're descended from the famous Marie Curie, the great scientist who discovered radium and the first woman to win a Nobel Prize. Miss Curie spun to face him, twirling around in one fluid motion. I am descended from no one, she snapped, and Mr. Dean didn't know what to say. She turned back to the children and began scribbling on her clipboard. You're John Cooper, third place. John smiled and put one finger up. You can call me Buzz. Marie Curie was instantly perplexed. What? Why? Because that's my name, he shrugged. Miss Curie double-checked her clipboard. Buzz is not your name, you impudent little boy. It could be my professional nickname, Buzz the Bubble Maker. No one gets nicknames, she said curtly and moved on. Ashley stood up as straight as she could as Miss Curie explained her in her wagon of algae, all the while furiously tapping her pen. Ashley Dean, second place. Ashley bowed slightly and nodded. Miss Curie dashed down a note, which Ashley tried to read. Miss Curie raised her clipboard so she could not. She moved on to Teresa and stared at her for a very long time, which made Teresa feel as awkward as ever. Teresa Brown, first place. Did you bring your spider? Thank goodness her father had thought to. Teresa pointed to it. Miss Curie noted this and then resumed staring at her. You seem nervous, she said. Teresa felt exposed. I'm not nervous. You are, Miss Curie said, matter-of-factly, and we have no time for confidence building. That goes for all of you. During your time spent at Flax Industries, there will be no hugs, no hand holding, no treats if you behave, no punishments if you misbehave. You will simply be sent home if you are out of order in any way. We are in the business of building inventions that will save this planet. So we have no time for tomfoolery, nonsense, ballyhoo, goofing up, goofing off, or goofing around. Is that understood? Because I, for one, was reluctant to approve your invitations at all. Children are destructive, insolent, and easily distracted. But the good doctor insisted. Wait a minute, step forward, young man. Thomas Edison had been trying to hide as best he could behind Teresa, but even though he was small, he couldn't completely escape notice. Hello, Thomas said, trying to make his voice sound deeper as he spoke through his winter scarf. My name is John Cooper. No, it isn't, the assistant said angrily, pointing at the real John. His name is John Cooper. No, my name is Buzz, John said proudly. What did I say about tomfoolery? She snapped. You said you have no time for it, Ashley said smugly. Miss Curry spun around and glided right up to her, nose to nose. We will have no sycophantic snobbery either, she hissed. Ashley's mother gave her a swat on the shoulder. Ashley, speak when spoken to. Miss Curry turned back to Thomas, who was trying to retreat into his puffy coat. Miss Curry leaned in close to him as she tried to back away. So do you still claim to be John Cooper, third place, winner of the Charleston County Middle School Science Fair? Thomas Edison processed the question for quite some time before growling in a deep, Batman-like voice, yes. Miss Curry whirled around without seeming to move her feet and pulled a long needle attached to a syringe from her laboratory coat pocket and held it up for everyone to see. Then you won't mind a quick blood test to prove it. Everyone, including Thomas Edison, gasped in horror. You can't take blood samples from unwilling children, Teresa's father protested. That's illegal. Miss Curie grinned and her green eyes glowed with an unnatural light. Watch me. She lunged for Thomas and grabbed his left glove. Thomas pulled his hand back, leaving the glove behind, and everyone could see his hand wasn't flesh at all but metal. Thomas quickly hid his artificial hand in his coat pocket, turned and ran into the pineapple fields as fast as his tiny, bundled legs would carry him. They all watched him run until he ducked down behind a large pineapple plant and seemed to disappear. Run away and hide, Miss Curie yelled after him, and don't come back. Miss Curie still held his little glove in her hand. She pocketed it, tucked the needle away, and smiled politely. Please excuse my scare tactics, but the doctor has been subject to envious and malicious enemies of late. I do hope you three won't prove to be a troublesome. First and foremost, my directive is to protect the owner of this laboratory and make certain no harm comes to him. Teresa's father couldn't hold back. But you can't scare innocent children like that. It's not right, Miss Curie scoffed. That was no innocent child. That boy didn't let me take a sample of his blood because he is not human. He is a robot named Thomas Edison, constructed by the good doctor. Unfortunately, he has been malfunctioning and has become a threat to our work here. Now please, children, follow me so we can start the day. We are already behind schedule. Parents, you are welcome to leave. Return to retrieve your children at 5 o'clock. Then, with a final twirl, she turned and glided toward the front door. Teresa, Ashley, and John stepped dutifully behind her, but Teresa's father and Ashley's parents remained where they were. not knowing how to react. Did she say that kid was a robot? Her father asked in disbelief. Beginning to panic, he followed Teresa. Ashley's mother followed him, and then Ashley's father followed her. Teresa felt her blood pumping with excitement. She had always wanted to build a robot indistinguishable from real life, and it appeared that Dr. Flax had really done it. She wondered if she could do the same. Maybe she could improve on her spider's design so that she would look like a giant twin flag jumping spider, the coolest of all the spiders. But she didn't say a word of this. She could tell her father was having second thoughts about letting her stay, and probably third and fourth thoughts too. As Miss Curie approached the large metal front doors, they slid open before her, revealing an enormous lobby. The children audibly gasped, and so did their parents. Miss Curie whirled around as if she were skating on ice. Didn't you hear me, parents? Didn't you hear me? No, parents. Children, if you want to come in, come in. Otherwise, you're free to go home. Teresa turned to see her father anxiously stepping forward and backward. He reached out like he wanted to take his daughter's hand, drive her home, and never let her outdoors until the summer was over. Teresa took her father's hand and spoke as gently as she could. Daddy, I can leave at any time, but I have to take this chance. I might just build something that can make this planet a better place. And if Dr. Flax can really stop hurricanes and save lives, then I know you'll be proud of me for being a part of it. Her father stared at her, stunned. Maybe she could give a good speech after all. He stepped back. He exhaled. Her father let go. Okay, he said, you've got me tongue-tied, baby girl. You go get him. Thanks, Dad, she said, giving him a quick hug. Don't worry. But she knew he would anyway. Still, she couldn't resist what might lay beyond the doors before her, no matter how dangerous. She turned and followed Ashley, John, and the peculiar Miss Curie into the laboratory.